So it started with a post on Craigslist and ended up as a job in the White House as part of an elite team traveling with the president. So just let that sink in for a minute.
Yeah, no kidding. Kind of wild. It sounds completely surreal, but it was Beck Dorey-Stein's reality for 5 years, literally hanging on President Barack Obama's every word, traveling the world, mic in hand, as one of the president's stenographers.
So her story and the book needs to be part of the dictionary definition of, now I don't know if this is actually in the dictionary, but I would say unputdownable. It's called From the Corner of the Oval. It has already been opted for movie rights, and you'll know why after this interview.
No kidding. Beck Dorey-Stein joining us right now. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Very exciting stuff. Loved it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a really fun read. We'll get right into it. One of the things I liked about it is, there's lots of books out there about strategy of the White House and what goes on during campaigns. But your book talks about the day-to-day of the lives of people who work for the president and travel with the president. But first of all, let's start about how you got this job. A Craigslist posting, and then you end up in the inner circle with, as you describe it, the hard pin.
With the hard pin.
That travels
the
with
green light.
Which travels with POTUS.
Yeah, so it was 2012. I was working 5 part-time jobs in Washington, D.C. And yeah, having a great, glamorous time. And I ended up applying to a job on Craigslist that was a stenographer's position at a law firm. And it turned out to be at the White House. Of course, I blew off the interview thinking it was at a law firm. So this woman had to write back and say, this is actually a job at the White House and you'd be traveling with the president. And I went, president of what? Because it was so outside the realm of possibility. And so then within a month, I was at the White House. Within 3 months, I was on Air Force One.
And one thing I think is important to mention is when people picture stenographer, they think of somebody at that little
Yeah, cat-eye glasses,
right.
beehive hairdo.
And the modern version of that is you basically travel with a microphone and recording devices and then transcribe later.
Yeah, the modern day version is we are his professional stalkers, and we just sort of creep around from room to room, but we put down recorders and then we sit in the corner. It's very much about discretion and understanding the role and understanding how important it is to have a record of everything.
But she gets to be there.
And you're around.
She's amazing.
You're around Barack Obama, right? For us mere mortals who are not around on the inner circle for that.
Hey, I was a Craigslist mere mortal.
That's fair. But being able to watch him so captivating, and especially his public speaking, no matter what. But you were, again, in that inner circle, and I love your stories, a couple of them that you had, but one in particular, because you love running. And so on a treadmill at a hotel, right? Tell us the story about what happened.
So I had never actually spoken to President Obama. As a stenographer, you stay in a corner, you just keep your head down. But he and I both are avid morning worker owners. So I was on a treadmill and I was by myself and I had just finished this run. And they brought in the German Shepherds, which are the dogs. They come around, they sniff for bombs, which is usually the first sign the president might come. Then a Secret Service agent came and put a treadmill broken sign next to me, which I was so impressed by because I was like, they didn't even run on the treadmill and somehow they knew. Their intel is so good. And so I wind down and then the Secret Service agent gets on next to me and he goes, I thought you'd be faster than that. And I turn and it's not a Secret Service agent, it's the president. And he's just waiting for me to say something funny and I just drop my jaw and run out of the room. And then realize afterwards that I hadn't wiped down my machine. So I get in the elevator, I was like, now he thinks I'm a gross person who doesn't wipe down their machine afterwards.
But that got better, that relationship got a little bit better, right?
It got so much better. We became morning workout buddies, and so actually when I left, he took a departure photo with my family and he wrote, thanks for being such a great workout partner. So.
Now you touch a lot on different events in the book too. You talk about Sandy Hook, you talk on events that are happening then, but you also share a lot of personal information when it comes to your relationships, when it comes to those. How hard was that for you when you realized you were gonna do this book? How hard was it to share putting your whole life story, pretty much every detail, gory detail, into this book?
It wasn't hard at all. Maybe it should have been hard, but it actually came totally naturally, the writing. And so when I wrote the book, I wanted it to be about my whole experience. I thought about my younger sister. I thought about all the students I had. I was an English teacher before this job. And so it was really important to be like, if I write this book, what do I want young women to know when they're navigating their first and second jobs? And what do you have to think about when you're in your 20s? Part of it is making mistakes. So yeah, all the gory details included.
Love it.
Well, you were saying one of the cool aspects of your job is that it's not a high-profile position, meaning that you can stand back and watch and listen. So while you did that for a good portion of Obama's administration, you were also there during the transition to the Trump administration. And we've talked to people who have been there and been fired, but what was it like behind the scenes to go from that particular leadership of the Obamas to the Trump administration? We heard about the chaos, we heard about the turmoil, but you saw it and lived it to some extent.
Yeah, the difference from day one could not have been more stark. I walked in the Sunday after inauguration, and the offices where all of my friends had been working, they were either empty or there was someone in there who was looking frantic and had no idea what they were doing. Everyone seemed kind of lost physically, like they just weren't sure how to orient themselves in the new building. There was a ton of yelling, and that happens during any transition, but they had gone out of their way to not coordinate with the Obama administration, so things seemed even more chaotic than usual.
And we're still sort of feeling the after effects of that now.
Yes, we are.
Did you hear from Barack or Michelle Obama after you've left? After you've been gone?
I got to see them once when their office opened. And
Have they read this?
I don't know. I hope so. I hope they read it. But President Obama, the last thing he said was nice kicks about these shoes. So now I feel like I get to wear these shoes whenever I want because he blessed them.
You have that. You have the gator necklace
Yes.
on, which features in the book as well. Thanks so much for coming. I have so many other questions for you. We are out of time.
Thanks for having me.
All right, up